Hi, everyone. I'm Ben. I'm a PhD student at Cornell Tech, and I just want to say I've been very impressed by the talks and posters so far. I'm happy to be here, and I was especially impressed by the CMU swag. I've never seen a magic 8-ball with CMU branding or college branding on it. I don't know if that was some kind of like statement about human AI interaction being like a human 8-ball interaction, but anyway, nice to be here. I also feel like I should say kind of shamelessly that I'm going up for jobs this year, so if anyone has jobs, I'd love to talk to you. I'm looking across industry and academia. Yeah, all right, so this is a game-theoretic approach to AI openness, safety, and governance, and it represents work with John Kleinberg at Cornell, Hoda Haydari, who's a professor here at CMU, and some work is with Hamida Odurinwale, who's a fantastic undergraduate student at McGill University. And we're all interested in these questions around human and AI complementarity and interaction, and sort of one aspect of this, of questions around the interaction between AI and humans is how does this interaction depend on the particular domain where the interaction occurs. And for a while you heard sort of like public conversations about generative AI, sort of framing AI as this technology that has no context and that sort of has general use across the board. So people were describing ChatGPT as an anything tool, et cetera. But of course we know that depending on the context, there are different purposes and needs and interests, and these sort of domain-specific considerations determine the sort of viability or usefulness of a particular intervention using AI technology. So this is a very sort of silly toy example, but in the medical domain, we might say that in the notes summarization task, there are some sort of like reasonable, viable ways that we might think about introducing AI. And these depart from sort of like more far-fetched notions of like designing a robo-doctor from the ground up or something like this. But of course, the potential uses abound. And so when reasoning about governance and regulation and safety, there are all sorts of questions about to what extent these considerations should be form-fit to the specific domain where we're thinking about the introduction of AI technology, or whether they should target kind of like this general pre-trained technology that can be used across the board. And so the question that I'm mostly going to discuss today is, should AI safety regulation target upstream in the sort of development process of the technology, downstream, both or neither? And in general, how can we sort of like reason about the implications of regulation and other kinds of interventions on welfare, safety, and performance in the development of the technology? So the basic ingredients of sort of like that we want to model here are you have at least two players. You have a generalist who might have certain capabilities, access to data, engineering talent, compute, et cetera, and at least one domain specialist who might have their own set of capabilities, so domain expertise, problem familiarity, designated staff. And one entity sort of produces the technology and others adapt or tune it. And this suggests a sort of latent strategic interaction. So you can imagine that the generalist would only invest a certain amount in the technology if they have some confidence that people are going to take it up and use it. But people will only take it up and use it if the technology has advanced to a certain level of performance. So there's sort of some kind of like interesting interactions between the incentives of the players. And further, with multiple downstream players, there's all sorts of further complexity. So specialist D1, their decision whether to enter the sort of like market or take up the technology might encourage the generalist to invest in a better technology, which might then bring specialists D2 and D3 into the fold. So we want to sort of reason about these interactions that can occur using a basic model here. And so this led to a sort of like first paper which provided a game-theoretic model of this interaction, and we called this fine-tuning games. And what happens is, in the simplest version, you have just two players, and each invests in the technology some amount, and they do it sequentially. So first G goes and then D goes. And each faces some cost function over their investments. And at the end, the technology brings in some revenue. But the revenue has to be shared between the two players. So we can imagine that they engage in some kind of bargain or figure out how to split the revenue, where maybe G gets 60% and D gets 40% or something like this. And so this is a basic sort of sequential game, and the strategies can be solved for, which we do in past work. The question that I'm interested in today is, if you have a setting like this, how do you regulate? So we can imagine that there's an additional player, which we call a regulator, and this regulator can target whoever they want in this interaction and can sort of constrain the strategies of the players however they want. So they can sort of like levy a requirement in a certain type of investment or something like this. And I know I've sort of gone quickly. This is the slide where I'm actually going to put forward the model. So here's an adapted version of that game theory model I showed earlier, but there's an additional step at the beginning. And importantly, we describe the technology using more than one attribute. So now we have a technology that's described by two attributes, alpha and beta, and you can imagine alpha as performance and beta as safety. But the findings should hold for any two attributes that we might have over this technology. And we can define each player's costs in investing over those two attributes. So these are functions of two variables. And we can define the revenue that comes as a result of the sort of final attributes of the technology. And the utilities of the players are simply their share of the revenue minus their individual costs that they face. So again, they sort of invest in the technology in turn, bringing in revenue. But we can imagine regulation is announced as sort of step zero, the very first thing in the game. And the regulation dictates that the players have to invest a certain amount in safety. So the regulation can specify a floor that the players have to meet in order to enter the game or make any sort of like profit or revenue at all. Okay. And so just as an illustration of sort of some of the functional forms that we deal with in the paper, we can imagine the revenue is like a linear function of these two attributes, and the costs are any quadratic function of these attributes. So this in particular in 2 dimensions allows for us to have some cross terms. So we're allowed to sort of tune whether an investment in safety makes a unit investment in performance easier or harder. And to give a rough illustration in 1 dimension, on the right, the red represents cost and green represents revenue. So if you have linear revenue and a sort of like typical quadratic cost function, there's some non-zero level of investment that maximizes the profit, the revenue minus the cost. And so this is hopefully going to help us reason about the incentive effects of some regulation in this setting. So I'm just going to give like one case that I hope like contains the punchline of the paper. So we can imagine one particular game. This game has a generalist that's incentivized with no regulation to reach a certain safety level and a certain performance level, and it's about 0.75, 0.75. And then we have 3 domain specialists, and each have different cost functions. So each have different incentives to bring the technology to a different combination of performance and safety. And we can ask, let's say we're a regulator and we want to make sure the technology reaches safety at least 1.2. So we're thinking about putting this minimum threshold on the domain specialists, which is above the one of the domain specialists' safety level, and we want them to be at least to reach at least that value. So this changes the strategies in a way that kind of surprised us when we first saw it. So what happens here is that the generalist knows that the domain specialists have to meet a certain level of safety. And so this incentivizes some amount of free riding, where the generalist can drop their investment in safety because they know that the domain specialists have to make it up. So it sort of gives a new lever for the generalist to kind of squeeze the specialists and force some investment out of them. And so this we sort of will call backfiring, but I'll get a little bit more formal on that soon. And we show that if you sort of target the players correctly and in a correct proportion with one another, this doesn't happen and the safety of the technology improves. And so to get a little bit more formal, we define backfiring in our game is it occurs if there exists a regulatory safety threshold such that the game yields lower safety than it would in the absence of regulation. And so it's surprising that there exists some regulations that backfire in this way. And indeed, we find that for all games where the game results in some non-zero level of safety at the end, or some non-zero investment in safety, this occurs. This actually is a more narrow condition, so what I just said is an even more capacious finding that's up to date in the archive version of the paper. And then sort of on the flip side, the second major finding of the paper is that on the contrary, for a wide swath of games, as long as the costs are sufficiently separable, meaning there isn't too much dependence between, in the cross terms between safety and performance, there is some regulatory regime that improves the safety, but also improves both players' utilities. So this is surprising because we would expect that if you're constraining the players' strategies, you should make the players worse off in some way. But we find that the sort of contract setting that we had set up was sort of not more restrictive than this broader regulatory setting, and so you can actually Pareto improve the players' utilities. Okay, so in the paper we reason about these sort of backfiring and mutualism effects. We call it mutualism, and that's it on that. So you might ask, okay, this all sounds interesting, but it seems quite theoretical. What relevance does this have for the real world? And in the real world, we see all of these AI regulations being drafted without much precedent or without much to go off of. And often these bills do differentiate between this like pre-trainer or general purpose producer and a fine-tuner of the technology. So for example, California's proposed SB 1047 bill, which did not pass, differentiated between these two entities and conditioned the liability for harms based on the entities. So if a fine-tuner spent more than $10 million, they became liable for harms, and otherwise the harms lie with the upstream domain specialist. So we want to offer this model as a way to sort of reason about the incentive effects, because inevitably there's some sort of theory that goes into drafting a law like this. And so if in the absence of empirics, it's important to reason about this not doing things that we don't want it to do. Okay, you might still not be satisfied and say, it still sounds very theoretical. What relevance does this have to the world? And so we were really excited to take this line of work on on understanding fine-tuning and this interaction, and to sort of use real-world data to understand it better. And so we went to Hugging Face, and one thing that's interesting about Hugging Face is that for any open source model that's available online through Hugging Face, you can click on the model's parent if the model is a fine-tune of a different model. And so what we were able to do was extract all of the openly available models on Hugging Face and look at the graph of fine-tuning relationships over all 2 million models on Hugging Face. And one surprise here was that these were not depth 1 trees. These are not star graphs. Instead, they're sort of these sprawling graphs in many instances. On the left, we have IBM's Granite, which got some coverage earlier from Justin. So that's the 250th largest family on Hugging Face. And then I've shown Quen and Hugging Face's own in-house models, which have gotten some more uptake than IBM, so I guess IBM has to get their act together. But the point is, these are really interesting and rich structures that we can analyze. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly go through. So one interesting empirical upshot that has to do with regulation was when we looked at the licenses and the drift over licenses, we saw that licenses often drift from corporate and commercial varieties to sort of less restrictive, copyleft, and permissive varieties, which is counter to the terms in the upstream licenses. And so this kind of surprised us as one sort of counterintuitive finding. Okay, broadly zooming out, I hope I've convinced you that sort of like theoretical and formal modeling is really interesting in this space, and understanding how these technologies diffuse and how domain adaptation occurs for AI is super important for understanding the implications for humans and for the trajectory of the technology. Thanks so much to my collaborators and to all of you for listening.